The third generation of Jeep Wrangler, known internally as the JK, is in my opinion the best used Wrangler money can buy. And in this video we are going over the top 10 things you need to know before you buy a used Wrangler JK.
The world's first four-door, five-passenger Wrangler, Wrangler Unlimited, a new species from Jeep.
Number 10, which version do you buy? The third generation of Wrangler started production in 2006 for the 2007 model year and lasted all the way up through 2018. Now that is a long production run and there were many big revisions throughout the range, which we'll talk about in this video. It was also the first Wrangler to be offered in a four-door configuration. Now this was so much hated when this vehicle launched that manufacturers weren't building parts for the four-door version because they thought nobody would want to modify one. Boy, did they turn out to be wrong, because later in the run, over 75% of JK sales were the four-door. Now, in my opinion, the two-door looks better. I've owned two-door JKs in the past. They are nice and maneuverable, and they are so fun in the sun when you pull the top off. However, if you have friends, family, things to carry, a small dog, a large dog, the four-door is the way to go. Let me show you. What the four-door did was turn the iconic Jeep from a vehicle that was very capable off-road, but not all that practical, into a vehicle that could be used every single day to haul not only yourself to the trail, but the kids to the school. And let's be honest, most folks that are buying these probably want to drive them on the road, because unless you live out way in the boonies, you're going to have to drive on the road to get to the boonies. And if you're driving on the road, why not use it to go shopping and, bring people places? And that's why the four-door Wrangler is typically worth significantly more in the used market than a two-door. The Unlimited Jeep, as it's called, also has a significantly larger trunk than the two-door Jeep. We actually drove a Wrangler JK to the 50 highest points in all 50 states. That's a journey of over 50,000 miles. And let me tell you what, from a storage capacity standpoint, I'm not sure that would have been possible in a two-door. Number 9, which engine is right for you? Now, across its 12-year lifespan, the largest change that happened to the Jeep Wrangler JK is the shift in powertrains. So early JKs sold from model year 2007 through model year 2011 came with one engine option here in the US, a 3.8-liter V6. Now, this engine didn't have great reviews when it came out because it only produced 202 horsepower, and it was made into a choice of either 6-speed manual or 4-speed automatic. And 202 horsepower just wasn't enough to motivate a four-door Wrangler, especially when you added larger tires and bumpers and all the weight that a lot of off-roaders add to their vehicles. Now, early 3.8s were known for oil consumption. However, as the decades have progressed, it's generally regarded as a fairly reliable engine. Now, if you want to go fast up mountains, a 4-speed automatic 3.8 on 37s is not going to be the great option for you. Starting in model year 2012, Jeep shifted to this engine, or I should say the early version of this engine. So they went from the 3.8 to a 3.6-liter V6 known as the Pentastar V6. Now, this engine produced way more power, 83 more horsepower, coming in at 285 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. The manual transmission remained a 6-speed, but the automatic went from a 4-speed to a 5-speed Mercedes-designed unit. Now, early 3.6s, I'm talking like 2012 through 2014s, had some issues with their heads, but starting from 2015 through 2018, they really dialed in the reliability of these engines, and those are going to be the most desirable. Of course, the newer the Jeep, the more expensive it's going to be, but specifically 2015 and later 3.6-liter JKs are kind of the sweet spot in powertrains. Number 8, hard or soft top. Now, the JK Wrangler came from the factory in a couple of different configurations, in both a foldable soft top and, of course, the composite hard top. Now, let's talk about the benefits of each. The soft top, I think, looks great. It's a little bit easier to roll all the way back, although not as easy as the new Wrangler JL. And it's also a little bit lighter, right? The downsides of the soft top is if you live in a city, people can slash through them, especially the windows. And they also wear out over time. Would you consider that a 2007 JK Wrangler is now 16 years old? If it is still on its original top figure you're going to have to replace it, and that can be anywhere from a few $100 to a couple thousand if you want a really premium top. Now the other option was this hard top. This is a 3-piece design. You got these Freedom panels in the front that pull out, and then the large rear portion comes out as a separate unit. For me, I think hardtop's the way to go. It's better in the winter. It's easier to resell, especially if you live in a cold climate like Colorado, and it's just a little bit more durable. Number 7, daily drivability. Let's talk about what it's like to live with a JK Wrangler, and this is something I have a little bit of experience with. Here at TFL, we put over 50,000 miles on a brand new one, and then I personally put about another 25,000 miles on a different one. We've had both 2 and 4 doors, both automatic and manual transmissions, and they are very easy to live with on a daily basis. But that is going to depend a lot on your frame of reference. So if you have been driving Lexuses and Acuras all your life, and then you get into a JK Wrangler, you're gonna think it drives pretty crappy on the road. This vehicle has solid axles front and back. It does have coil springs, but you do have the compromises that a solid axle brings to the table, primarily with ride quality and handling. Keep in mind, the left and the right wheels are tied together, so if one of the wheels hits a bump, the other wheel is gonna be impacted. And then you get the slow recirculating ball steering. It's not a premium driving experience, but compared to both YJ and TJ Wranglers, which I have both also daily driven, the JK is worlds better. I mean, it's not even in the same universe. That's how much easier it is to live with on a daily basis from a driving standpoint. Now, there are some things which are pretty frustrating. The seats in every JK I've ever been in are just not very good. They're a little bit like park benches. There's very little adjustability. There's no lumbar control. Even on a top spec 2018, you're not going to get lumbar support, which is just crazy. And after like 3 or 4 hours in a JK seat, I'm feeling a little bit out of it. They're just not very comfy. But around town, even short trips, medium trips, it really isn't a problem. Number 6, interior and build quality. Now, once again, we have a pretty big separation between early JKs and the later JKs. So 2007 through 2010 have the original interior design, which looked really great in pictures, but felt pretty poor in person. Really cheap quality plastics. In 2011, they introduced an all-new interior design, which is what we see here, which is a little bit more modern and definitely seems to hold up better over time. Now, it's nothing fancy, still lots of hard plastic materials, but they also introduced some pretty good tech. Now, this one is a 2016, so this is going to be toward the end of the run. Still have the old-fashioned key, but let's talk through some of the technology features on these later JKs. So you do have steering wheel controls with audio and tune adjustments on the back of the steering wheel. This Uconnect system, some people dislike the system, and I understand it. It does some kind of fun stuff, like does that classic 2000 thing to load in your discs there, but I love this Uconnect system. It's very easy to use. You've got shortcuts as buttons on both sides of the unit. It does have Bluetooth connectivity, and in my experience, they last a really long time and are just dead simple to use. Later ones also have stuff like USB ports. If you get a more luxury-oriented model like this one, you also get heated seats, so you do get some luxuries, automatic climate control. The later interiors are a lot nicer than the early ones. Now, one thing worth noting, which is a little confusing, is if you're shopping for one of these and you see the later interior, a lot of people immediately assume, oh, it's got the Pentastar V6, but there was 1 year only. This is kind of a nasty little thing that people get caught up with. For 2011, you got the new interior, but the old engine. So 2011 was a transition year. Definitely something worth noting if you want to get that newer V6. Number 5, towing capability, or maybe I should say lack thereof. Now, when you look at the Wrangler, you'd assume it'd be a pretty good tow vehicle. Body on frame, solid axles, it just looks tough and meaty. However, they don't tow a lot, nor do they tow very well. So the most you can tow legally with a JK Wrangler is 3,500 pounds. The 2 doors were rated at about 2,000 if properly equipped. Now, we've probably put 10 to 15,000 towing miles on JKs, and they just don't have a lot of stability. And they also don't have a lot of longevity up hills before they start to kind of degrade power due to heat concerns, at least from our experience. So if you're gonna tow definitely keep it to the absolute minimum. If you want to tow a little more, something like a 4Runner is probably going to be a better option. Number 4, what to pay. Well, like any other used car, pricing is going to vary greatly across the board based on condition, miles, that kind of thing. But here's a general rule of thumb. JK Wranglers, even 10, 15 years later, really hold their value. Now, the older JKs with the 3.8s are typically worth less. On the low end, depending on your state too, because it varies regionally, 10K to about 15K for a 3.8. And then when you step up to the 3.6, well, prices can be anywhere from 17 all the way up to 30K or even higher. I've seen them as high as 40 on the used market if it's a really special edition, maybe with a nice set of mods and low miles. So pricing is hugely dependent based on not only age and miles, but also whether or not it's an early JK, late JK, and what kind of trim you're looking at. Number 3, fuel economy. Well, an early 4-door auto JK was rated at 17 mpg combined, and then when they went to the Pentastar, a 4-door auto is going to be rated at 18 mpg combined. But the second you lift them, change the bumpers, roof rack, you know, the usual JK stuff, your fuel economy is going to tank quite a bit. You know, you're going to be looking probably at mid-teens all around, which is about right for the style of Jeep, and it is to be expected. They're also not particularly fast, especially when you get them heavy like this AEV Jeep. They make good power, these Pentastars. Holy moly, I got bumpy there. They make good power over like 4,000 RPM, but you really got to wring them out to make progress up Interstate 70, you know, at 9,000 feet above sea level. So they're not sports cars. Manual transmission helps a little bit. The 5-speed auto versus the 4-speed definitely helps quite a bit, but they're not sports cars. Number 2, which version is right for you? There were so many different trims available on JK Rubicon. Now, the 3 primary ones are going to be Sport, Sahara, and Rubicon. Sport is going to be your most affordable. Sahara is going to be your kind of luxury on-road oriented Jeep, and Rubicon, of course, is the most off-road worthy. Now, the most valuable are certainly the Rubicons because they come with a 4-to-1 transfer case, 410 gears, true locking differentials front and back, the disconnectable sway bar. So that's the one that the off-roaders really kind of gravitate to. Now, quite honestly, you know, if I'm just looking for a fun, casual Jeep to take off-road on the weekends, I would get like a sport trim, maybe a Sahara, and change out the tires a little bit, but you really don't need a Rubicon for 99% of things that you're going to be doing off-road. So you really have to ask yourself, like, unless you're going to the craziest places in Moab, the Rubicon is worth it. But if you want to save a lot of money, then a Sport or a Sahara will probably do you just fine. And one more thing worth noting about trims, Jeep did all sorts of weird, wacky, bizarre special edition trims across the JK lineup. Some of them were pretty cool and gave you genuine hardware, like the Rubicon Recon at the end of the line. Other ones were kind of, in my opinion, silly. Like there was a Dragon edition, which had this huge dragon decal across the side. So if people are asking stupid money for some special Call of Duty edition, don't buy it. It was marketing then, and it's still marketing now. Number 1, stock versus modified. Now, this is a debate that has been raging for years and years and years. And of course, now that every JK is a used vehicle, you're going to see all sorts and types up for sale online and at your local dealerships. Now, I mean, one benefit of buying stock is there's a much higher chance it's never been used off-road. You also know that, well, hopefully the parts are OEM quality because it hasn't been messed with. Then, of course, you can build it out yourself with all the mods you want and make it your own. Buying one modified, a lot of the times you're buying someone else's baby that's probably, you know, been changed from factory specifications in good and bad ways. Now, not all mods are equal, right? There are sub-manufacturers that build really high-quality lift kits like what this Jeep has, which has an AEV setup on it, and there's other, you know, kits that are much lower quality and will probably need to be replaced. Now, a Jeep like this is a little special because this was actually sent out to AEV, which is a high-quality manufacturer of Jeep components, to be built into this current configuration, and something like this will hold a higher premium over a standard JK. But for the most part, a lot of folks think that their lift kits and larger tires will really increase the value of their Jeep when they go to sell it. That typically isn't the case. So you know, if you're looking at one that's been modified with the standard lift on 34s and then a stock one, and the guy thinks that the one on 34s is worth 10K more, I would be very hesitant to pay that. Guys, I'd love to know what you think of the JK Wrangler. Am I right in saying this is my favorite generation? And as always, this has been Tommy, behind the camera Ian, and we'll see you in another future buyer's guide. Thanks for watching. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said something rather controversial to all my Jeep friends out there, that the JK is my favorite generation of Wrangler. The reason that's controversial is because most folks will point to, at least the hardcore folks will point to the TJ, because that was the last Jeep that had the legendary 4-liter inline 6. It was small, it was really lightweight, 2-door only, although they did do an extended wheelbase. Sorry Blaze, I'm driving up some logs here, buddy. But what I like a lot more about the JK is that its breadth of use cases far exceeds what the YJ or TJ ever did. So, you know, the extra width of the JK, the quality of the ride, the quality of the steering, the quality of the interior all make this a more daily drivable vehicle that's not such a penalty box on the road. And you know, let's be honest, off-road, I think they're realistically just as good. Keep in mind, most TJs aren't the Rubicons. Rubicon TJs are pretty hard to find now and pretty expensive, and those are amazing. But a standard TJ, any JK will, a sport JK will outwheel a base model TJ any day of the week, because you've got traction control and some modern tech to help out there. So look, I love them. They're my favorite, and I even like them compared to the new JL, because they're not quite as refined, so they don't take it quite to the extreme, but you get a lot more refinement than the old ones, but you don't get quite as much crazy tech as some of the new ones, right? Like, there's no auto start stop in here, there's no big huge screens, there's a lot of buttons and switches, physical. And I just like that, I really do. So that's why this is my favorite generation of Wrangler.